The alarm bells rang through every deck of the massive ship. Captain Zech-3 felt his 4 hearts beat faster as he watched the main display screen. Red warning lights flashed everywhere on the bridge of the Serenity's Dream. "Engineering report," he ordered, his blue skin growing pale with worry. Chief Engineer Corman looked up from her console. Her tentacles moved quickly over the controls as she tried to make sense of the readings. "Captain, the main engine core is failing. We have maybe 20 minutes before complete shutdown." Zech-3 closed his large black eyes for a moment. The Serenity's Dream was the biggest passenger ship in the galaxy. 12,000 people from dozens of different planets were on board. Families going on vacation, merchants traveling to trade meetings, students visiting other worlds to study. All of them trusted him to keep them safe. "What caused the failure?" he asked. "Unknown, sir." The engine readings were normal 1 minute, then everything went wrong at once. "It's like the core just gave up." The ship shook violently. Through the large windows of the bridge, Zech-3 could see the swirling colors of the Helios Nebula. They had been passing through the edge of it when the engines died. Now they were being pulled deeper into the nebula by its strange gravity. Navigation Officer Yeln spoke up from his station. "Captain, we're drifting toward the center of the nebula. Our computers can't get a fix on our position. The energy fields are too chaotic." Zech-3 knew about the Helios Nebula. Every ship captain did. It was a graveyard of vessels that had gone in and never come out. The nebula's gravity was strange and unpredictable. Its energy fields made navigation computers go crazy. Even the most advanced ships avoided it. "Send out a distress call," he ordered. "All frequencies, maximum power." Communications Officer Blex worked at his station for several minutes. Finally, he turned to face the captain. "Sir, I'm sending the signal, but the nebula is interfering. I don't know if anyone will receive it clearly." The ship shook again, harder this time. Passengers would be scared. Zech-3 had to make a choice. Tell them the truth and cause panic, or keep quiet and hope for rescue. "Captain," Engineer Corman called out, "life support is running on backup power. At current consumption, we have 72 hours of air and heat. 72 hours. 3 days to live. No one came to help them. Send the distress call every 10 minutes, Zech-3 decided. Include our passenger manifest and our situation. Maybe someone will hear us." He walked to the ship's communication system and pressed the button that would let him speak to everyone on board. "Attention passengers and crew. This is Captain Zech-3 speaking. We have experienced some technical difficulties with our engines. We are working to fix the problem and have sent signals asking for help. Please remain calm and stay in your assigned areas. We will keep you informed of our progress." He turned off the microphone and looked at his crew. They all knew the truth. The engines couldn't be fixed with the parts they had. They were trapped in one of the most dangerous regions of space, and their distress call might never reach anyone who could help. "Sir," Officer Yeln said quietly, "we're picking up signals from other ships in the nebula." "Other ships? You mean rescue ships?" "No, sir. Old signals. Emergency calls from ships that got trapped here years ago. Decades ago. The news. The nebula seems to hold on to radio waves and play them back." Zech-3 felt a chill run through his body. The nebula was full of ghost signals from ships that had died here. Ships whose crews had sent the same desperate calls for help that he was sending now. Hours passed. The ship continued to drift deeper into the nebula. The energy storms outside grew stronger. Sometimes they lit up the bridge with wild colors. Purple, green, gold. It would have been beautiful if it wasn't so deadly. "Any response to our distress calls?" Zech-3 asked. "Nothing clear, sir. I think some ships have heard pieces of our signal, but the interference is too strong for proper communication. The captain looked at the passenger manifest on his screen. 12,000 names. 12,000 lives depending on him. There were children on board. Elderly people. Families who had saved for years just to take this trip. "Captain," Navigation Officer Yelm called out. "We're approaching the Stella graveyard." Zextery looked at the main screen. Ahead of them, barely visible through the swirling energy clouds, were the dark shapes of dead ships. Hundreds of them. Maybe thousands? Ships from every species in the galaxy, all caught by the nebula's strange gravity. All failed rescue attempts or unlucky travelers like themselves. "How long until we reach the graveyard?" he asked. "At our current drift rate, about 60 hours, sir." 60 hours. They would run out of air 12 hours before they reached the ship graveyard. Somehow, that seemed fitting. They would die before becoming another ghost ship in the nebula's collection. "Keep sending the distress call," Zex-3 ordered. "And keep trying to boost the signal strength." "Yes, sir." As the hours passed, the situation grew worse. The backup power systems began to fail one by one. The heat started to fade, and the ship grew cold. Passengers huddled together in the common areas, sharing blankets and trying to stay warm. Zech-3 walked through the ship, talking to families, trying to keep their spirits up. But he could see the fear in their eyes. Parents held their children closer. Old couples sat together in silence, holding hands in the ship's dining hall. He found a group of children drawing pictures. Their teacher, a kind woman from the planet Telos, was helping them write letters. "What are the children doing?" he asked. "They're writing to their families back home," she said softly. "Just in case." Zextery felt his heart break a little. These children were too young to die. Everyone on this ship deserved better than this. He returned to the bridge as the ship passed the 48-hour mark. Half their air was gone. The distress call continued to broadcast into the chaotic energy of the nebula, but no one had answered. No one was coming to help. "Sir," Officer Black said, his voice heavy with sadness. "I'm picking up some partial responses to our distress call. Ships have heard us, but none of them are willing to enter the nebula." Zex-3 nodded. He couldn't blame them. The nebula had claimed too many ships already. No captain would risk their crew and passengers for a rescue mission that would probably fail. They were truly alone. The first rescue ship appeared on the Serenity's Dream sensors 36 hours after the engines had failed. Captain Zex-3 felt a surge of hope as he watched the blip on his screen. "It's the Stella Guardian," Communications Officer Blex announced. "Galactic Rescue Corps' finest ship. They're responding to our distress call." Zex-3 had heard of the Stella Guardian. It was the most advanced rescue vessel in known space, equipped with the latest technology and staffed by the best rescue teams in the galaxy. If anyone could save them, it would be these people. "Incoming transmission," Blex said. The main screen flickered to life, showing a stern-faced woman in a crisp blue uniform. Captain Vera of the Galactic Rescue Corps looked professional and confident. "Serenity's Dream, this is Captain Vera of the Stella Guardian. We received your distress call. Stand by for rescue operations." "Thank you, Captain Vera," Zex-3 replied. "We have 12,000 passengers and crew. Life support will fail in 36 hours. "Understood. We're beginning our approach to the nebula now. Our advanced AI navigation system will guide us through the energy fields to reach you." Zex-3 allowed himself to feel hopeful for the first time in over a day. The rescue corps had saved thousands of lives across the galaxy. Their ships were designed specifically for dangerous rescue missions. Surely they could handle the nebula, but as the hours passed, that hope began to fade. "Serenity's Dream, we're encountering severe navigation difficulties," Captain Vera reported. "The energy fields are more chaotic than our computers predicted. We're trying to recalculate a safe route. Zek's theory watched his sensor screen as the Stellar Guardian made 3 attempts to enter the nebula. Each time, the ship was forced to retreat when its navigation systems failed. The AI that controlled the ship couldn't handle the unpredictable energy patterns. We're launching 2 rescue shuttles, Captain Vera announced on the 4th try. Smaller ships might be able to navigate where we cannot. Zek's held his breath as he watched the 2 small craft enter the nebula. They made it further than their mothership, but not far enough. One shuttle lost power completely and had to be rescued by the other. The second shuttle's pilot became disoriented and nearly flew into an energy storm that would have destroyed both vessels. Serenity's dream. We've lost both shuttles, Captain Vera reported, her voice tight with frustration. We cannot safely reach you with our current equipment. We're requesting additional rescue ships, but she didn't need to finish. Zek's knew what she meant. If the rescue corps couldn't save them, who could? We'll keep trying, Captain Vera promised before ending the transmission. But the Stellar Guardian didn't try again. After losing their shuttles, they remained at the edge of the nebula, waiting for reinforcements that might never come. The second rescue attempt came 18 hours later. This time, it was a Chronari battle fleet. 5 massive warships with heavy armor and powerful engines. The Chronari were a warrior species, proud and strong. They feared nothing in space. General Thok appeared on the communication screen. His reptilian features were hard and cold, but his offer seemed genuine. Serenity's dream. This is General Thok of the Chronari First Fleet. We will extract your passengers and crew. Thank you, General, Zek's said. We're grateful for any help you can provide. There are conditions, Thok continued. All passengers and crew will be taken to Chronari space for processing. They will work in our labor colonies until they have paid for their rescue. Zek's felt his stomach drop. General, these are civilians. Families with children. They're not criminals. The nebula is dangerous. Our ships and crews risk destruction to save them. Payment is required. What kind of payment? What do you mean by labor colonies? General Thok's expression didn't change. 20 years of service in our mining operations. It is a fair trade. Their lives for their labor. 20 years of slavery. That's what the Chronari were offering. They would save the passengers only to make them prisoners. I cannot accept those terms, Zek's said firmly. Then you will die in the nebula, Thok replied. We will not risk our ships for free. The transmission ended. The Chronari ships remained in space near the nebula for several more hours, waiting for Zek's to change his mind. When he didn't respond, they jumped away to their home systems. Many passengers had heard about the Chronari offer. Some begged Zek's to accept it. 20 years of hard labor was better than death, they argued. At least their children would live to see adulthood, even if they spent it in mines. But Zek's refused to condemn his passengers to slavery. There had to be another way. The third rescue attempt was the strangest of all. A collective ship appeared on their sensors, a massive crystalline structure that barely looked like a ship at all. The collective was made up of beings who had evolved beyond physical bodies. They were pure intelligence, connected by technology beyond most species' understanding. When they communicated, it wasn't through normal radio. Instead, mathematical formulas appeared on the screen, somehow translating directly into thoughts that Zek's could understand. We have analyzed your situation, the collective announced. The probability of successful rescue is being calculated. For 18 hours, the collective ship remained motionless near the nebula. Zek's waited, hoping that beings with such advanced intelligence could find a solution that had escaped everyone else. Finally, they responded. Calculation complete. Rescue probability, 0.0034%. Risk to rescue vessel, 97.8%. Acceptable risk threshold, 15% maximum. Conclusion: rescue attempt illogical. We cannot proceed. Wait, Zex3 pleaded. There must be something you can do. Some way to improve the odds. No variables can be adjusted to achieve acceptable risk levels. Your situation is mathematically hopeless. We express sympathy for your circumstances. The collective ship disappeared as suddenly as it had arrived. They had analyzed the situation with perfect mathematical precision and determined that saving the Serenity's dream was impossible. With 20 hours of life support remaining, Zex3 made another announcement to his passengers. Everyone, he said over the ship's communication system, I want you to know that 3 different rescue attempts have been made. Good people tried to save us. They failed, but they tried. We are not forgotten. In the passenger areas, families gathered together. Parents told their children stories. Couples shared memories of their lives together. Some people wrote final messages to their loved ones back home, hoping someone would eventually find them. The teacher from Telos continued her work with the children, helping them stay calm and unafraid. She read them stories about heroes and adventures, about brave people who never gave up hope. Will someone else come to save us? A little girl asked. The teacher looked out the window at the swirling colors of the nebula. 3 rescue attempts had failed. The best ships in the galaxy couldn't navigate the chaotic energy fields. The strongest warriors wanted to enslave them. The smartest beings in the universe had calculated that rescue was impossible. I don't know, she admitted. But if they do come, they'll have to be very special people. Braver and smarter than anyone we've seen so far. The child nodded and went back to her drawing. She was sketching a picture of a small ship flying through the nebula, coming to rescue them. It was a child's fantasy, drawn with bright colors and impossible hope. But sometimes, impossible things happened in the universe. Sometimes, when everyone else had given up, someone unexpected found a way. The Serenity's dream continued to drift toward the stellar graveyard, carrying 12,000 souls who refused to stop hoping, even when hope seemed foolish. With 20 hours of life support remaining, despair had settled over the Serenity's dream like a heavy blanket. The temperature had dropped enough that passengers could see their breath. Emergency lights cast long shadows through the corridors as the ship conserved power. Captain Zex3 sat on his bridge, staring at the sensor displays that showed nothing but the chaotic energy patterns of the nebula. 3 rescue attempts had failed. No more ships were coming. The galaxy had given up on them. Sir, Navigation Officer Yelm called out weakly. I'm picking up something strange on the deep sensors. Zex3 didn't look up immediately. False readings were common in the nebula. The energy storms played tricks on their equipment, showing phantom ships that didn't exist. Another ghost signal? He asked. I don't think so, sir. It's coming from deep inside the stellar graveyard. Something's moving through there. This got Zex3's attention. Nothing moved through the stellar graveyard. It was where ships went to die, pulled apart by gravitational forces that no vessel could survive. The dead ships there had been stripped down to their metal skeletons by years of energy storms. Show me, he ordered. The main screen displayed a fuzzy image of the graveyard. Hundreds of dark ship hulks drifted in twisted metal formations. But there, moving between them like a fish swimming through a coral reef, was something impossible. It's a ship, Officer Yelm whispered. A working ship, moving through the graveyard. That's not possible, Engineer Corman said, her tentacles trembling with exhaustion. Nothing can navigate through there. The gravitational fields are too chaotic. But the sensor readings didn't lie. Something was coming toward them from the deepest part of the nebula, from a place where no ship should be able to survive. Can you identify it? Zex3 asked. Officer Yelm worked at his console, trying to clean up the sensor data. It's very small, sir. Maybe 1/10 the size of our ship. The design is strange. I don't recognize the configuration. Try to establish communication, Zex-3 ordered, though he didn't hold much hope. Whatever ship was brave enough or crazy enough to fly through the Stella graveyard probably wouldn't be interested in helping them. I'm getting something, Communications Officer Blex announced suddenly. Weak signal, but it's definitely artificial. Wait, someone's hailing us. The bridge fell silent. After hours of sending distress calls into empty space, someone was finally answering. Put it through, Zex-3 ordered. Static filled the bridge speakers for a moment. Then, clear as anything, came a voice speaking in standard galactic common. This is Captain Maria Santos of the cargo freighter Lucky Strike. We picked up your distress call. You folks need a tow? The casual tone of the voice was so unexpected that Zex-3 almost laughed. Here they were, trapped in the most dangerous region of space with 12,000 lives hanging by a thread, and someone was asking if they needed a tow, like they were broken down on a highway. This is Captain Zex-3 of the Serenity's Dream, he replied. We have 12,000 passengers and crew aboard. Our engines are dead, and we have less than 20 hours of life support remaining. Copy that, Serenity's Dream. We're about 6 hours out from your position. Hang tight, we'll get you sorted. Officer Yelm was studying his sensors with a confused expression. Captain, I'm getting clearer readings on the approaching ship. The design. I think it's human. Human? Zex-3 was surprised. Humans were one of the newer species to achieve space travel. Their technology was considered primitive by galactic standards. Their ships were slow, their weapons were basic, and their navigation systems were generations behind what everyone else used. Confirmed, sir. It's definitely a human vessel. But I don't understand how they're navigating the nebula. Their technology shouldn't be capable of it. Engineer Corman looked up from her station. Captain, if it's really a human ship, they won't have the power to tow us out of here. Human engines are too weak. Lucky Strike, this is Serenity's Dream, Zex-3 called. Our ship mass is over 2 million tons. Do you have the capability to assist a vessel of our size? Oh, we're not going to pull you out, Captain Santos replied with a chuckle. That would take way more muscle than we've got. But don't worry, we've got a plan. We'll explain when we get there. A plan? What kind of plan could a small cargo ship have that the galaxy's most advanced rescue vessels couldn't manage? As the hours passed, the human ship grew closer. Through the bridge windows, Zex-3 could occasionally catch glimpses of it as it moved through the energy storms. It was indeed small, a battered-looking cargo freighter that looked like it had seen better decades. Hull patches covered meteor damage, and its engines glowed with an unsteady light that suggested jury-rigged repairs. How are they doing that? Officer Yelm muttered, watching the ship navigate through gravitational fields that had destroyed much larger vessels. Their navigation computer should be going crazy in these conditions. Maybe it's broken, Engineer Corman suggested. Maybe they're flying blind and just getting lucky. But luck didn't explain how the ship avoided 3 separate energy storms on its approach. Luck didn't explain how it threaded between gravity wells that would have crushed it. The human ship moved through the nebula like it belonged there, like the chaotic forces were old friends rather than deadly enemies. Serenity's Dream, this is Lucky Strike. Captain Santa's voice crackled through the speakers. We're about to come alongside. Don't be alarmed if we look a little rough around the edges. We've been out here for a while. The human ship appeared on the main screen, and Zex-3 gasped. Up close, it looked even worse than he'd expected. The hull was scarred and patched in dozens of places. One of the engine nacelles was held together with what looked like metal bands. The ship's name, Lucky Strike, was barely visible under layers of space dust and burn marks. "This is Captain Santos," came the transmission. "Mind if we come aboard to discuss the situation? Works better face to face." "Of course," Zexthery agreed. "Docking Bay 7 is operational." As he waited for the human captain to arrive, Zexthery couldn't help but wonder what kind of person would pilot such a battered ship into one of the galaxy's most dangerous regions. The Galactic Rescue Corps had retreated. The Chronari military had demanded payment. The collective had calculated the rescue as impossible. Yet here was a small human cargo ship, apparently confident that they could succeed where everyone else had failed. The airlock cycled, and Captain Santos stepped onto the bridge. She was shorter than Zexthery had expected, with graying hair tied back in a practical ponytail. Her clothes were work-worn but clean, and she carried herself with the easy confidence of someone who had seen everything space could throw at her. "Captain Santos," Zexthery said, standing to greet her. "Thank you for coming. Though I'm afraid the situation is rather hopeless." Santos looked around the bridge, taking in the failing systems and exhausted crew. Then she smiled, the first genuine smile Zexthery had seen in days. "Hopeless?" she said. "Friend, you haven't been in the nebula long enough to know what hopeless looks like. We've been scavenging out here for 6 months. This place has moods, and right now it's feeling cooperative." "The nebula has moods?" Officer Yelm asked incredulously. "Sure does. You just have to learn how to read them. Now, let's talk about getting you folks home." Captain Santos spread a hand-drawn map across the navigation table. It showed the Helios Nebula, but not like any chart Zexthery had ever seen. Instead of clean lines and mathematical coordinates, it was covered with rough sketches, color-coded areas, and handwritten notes. "Here's what we're dealing with," Santos said, pointing to different sections of the map. "The nebula isn't just random chaos. It has patterns, like weather systems. You just have to know how to read them." Officer Yelm leaned closer, his large eyes studying the crude map. "Captain Santos, our navigation computers can't detect any patterns. The energy readings are completely random." "That's because you're thinking like machines," Santos replied with a grin. "Computers try to calculate everything down to the last decimal place. But some things can't be calculated. They have to be felt." Engineer Corman shook her head. "That's not how navigation works. Without precise calculations, ships crash into gravity wells or energy storms." "Tommy," Santos called toward the airlock, "bring the others over here. These folks need to understand how we do things." 3 more humans entered the bridge. Zexthery was surprised by how different they looked from what he expected. The galaxy knew humans as a young, primitive species. But these 3 moved with the confidence of people who had spent years mastering their environment. "This is Tommy Chun," Santos said, introducing a stocky man with calloused hands. "Best asteroid miner in 3 systems. He reads gravity fields like music." Tommy nodded at the bridge crew. "Gravity's got rhythm," he said simply. "Once you learn the beat, you can dance with it instead of fighting it." "This is Sarah Kim," Santos continued, indicating a tall woman with bright eyes and oil-stained coveralls. "She can fix anything that breaks and make it work better than it did originally." Sarah smiled. "The trick is understanding that space doesn't care about our rulebooks. Sometimes, the best solution is the one that shouldn't work." "And this is Pete Morrison," Santos finished, gesturing to a lean man who seemed to be constantly in motion. "Finest pilot I've ever seen. He doesn't fly ships so much as have conversations with them." Pete laughed. "Ships want to fly. You just have to listen to what they're telling you." Zexthery looked at these 4 humans and tried to understand how they could be so confident. Their ship was a wreck. Their equipment was outdated. Their methods seemed to ignore everything the galaxy knew about space navigation. "Captain Santos," he said carefully, "3 of the galaxy's most advanced rescue operations have failed to reach us. The Galactic Rescue Corps has ships with AI navigation systems that can calculate millions of variables per second. And that's exactly why they failed," Santos said. "They tried to outthink the nebula instead of working with it." She pointed to her hand-drawn map again. "See these color zones? Red areas are where the energy storms hit hardest. Blue zones are where the gravity wells cluster. Green areas are where the fields cancel each other out and create safe corridors." "How did you map this?" Officer Yelm asked. "Our sensors can't detect these patterns. We've been here for 6 months," Tommy answered. "Watching, learning, making mistakes. Lost 2 cargo containers and nearly got ourselves killed a dozen times. But we learned." "You've been in the nebula for 6 months?" Engineer Corman was amazed. "How have you survived? How has your ship held together?" Sarah patted a control panel affectionately. "The Lucky Strike doesn't look like much, but she's tougher than most people think. Human ships are built to take a beating and keep going. We design them to be fixed, not replaced. Plus," Pete added, "we don't rely on computers for everything. When the navigation AI goes crazy, I fly by feel. When the engines start acting up, Sarah fixes them with spare parts and determination. When we need to find a safe path, Tommy reads the gravity and I follow his lead." Santos looked directly at Zex-3. "Captain, your ship is too big for us to tow and too damaged to repair. But we don't need to do either of those things." "Then what's your plan?" Zex-3 asked. "We're going to use the nebula itself to push you out." The bridge fell silent. Engineer Corman was the first to speak. "That's impossible. The energy storms would tear us apart." "Not if we time it right," Santos said. "Tommy's been tracking the big patterns. There's a massive energy wave building up deep in the nebula. It hits every few days and pushes everything toward the outer edge." Tommy nodded enthusiastically. "It's like a tide, but made of gravity and energy instead of water. Normally, ships try to avoid it because it's dangerous. But if we position ourselves correctly, we can ride it out of here. The wave will hit in about 8 hours, Pete added. Perfect timing, since that's right when your air runs out. Zex-3 stared at them. You want to deliberately put us in the path of an energy storm? Not in the path, Sarah corrected. On the leading edge. Like surfing. We'll use the lucky strike to keep you oriented properly, and the wave will do the rest. The calculations required for that kind of precision, Officer Yelm began. No calculations, Santos said firmly. Calculations are what got the other rescue ships in trouble. We're going to do this by instinct, timing, and a lot of luck. But if you're wrong, Zex-3 said. If we're wrong, we all die, Santos admitted. But if we don't try, you definitely die. And honestly, we've pulled off crazier things than this. Zex-3 looked at his crew. They were exhausted, scared, and running out of time. The logical part of his mind said that trusting a plan based on instinct and luck was madness. But the logical plans had all failed. What do you need us to do? He asked. Santos grinned. Just trust us. And maybe pray to whatever gods your people believe in. The next few hours were the most terrifying of Zex-3's life. The humans worked with a casual efficiency that seemed impossible given the danger they were facing. They attached guide cables between the ships, positioned the Serenity's Dream in what they claimed was the optimal location, and waited. Tommy stood at a jury-rigged sensor station, feeling vibrations in the ship's hull that his instruments couldn't detect. Sarah crawled through maintenance tubes, making adjustments to systems that shouldn't have been able to work. Pete sat at the pilot's station, his hands hovering over controls as he prepared to make split-second decisions. Energy wave approaching, Tommy announced. Big one. Really big. Through the bridge windows, Zek's theory could see the nebula changing. Colors shifted and swirled as massive forces built up in the distance. Space itself seemed to be gathering energy for something enormous. Everyone hold on, Santos ordered. Here we go. The wave hit like the hand of a giant. The Serenity's dream shook so violently that Zek's theory thought it would break apart. Alarms screamed throughout the ship as systems overloaded. But somehow, impossibly, they were moving. Moving fast. Moving toward the edge of the nebula. Adjusting position, Pete called out, his fingers dancing over the controls of the Lucky Strike. The smaller ship nudged and guided the massive liner like a tugboat steering an ocean vessel. Looking good, Tommy shouted over the noise. Waves carrying us perfectly, just like I felt it would. For 20 minutes, they rode the energy wave through space that no ship should have been able to survive. The humans worked as a team, making constant tiny adjustments based on nothing more than intuition and experience. And then, suddenly, they were through. The chaos of the nebula fell away behind them, and they found themselves in normal space. Stars shone clearly through the windows. The sensor displays showed clean, predictable readings. They were free. Well, Santos said calmly, that wasn't too bad. Everyone okay over there? Zek's-theory looked around his bridge. His crew was shaking but alive. His passengers were safe. 12,000 people had just been rescued by 4 humans in a cargo ship that looked like it should have fallen apart years ago. Captain Santos, he said, his voice filled with wonder. How did you know it would work? Santos smiled. Sometimes the best plans are the ones that can't be calculated. Sometimes you just have to trust that the universe wants you to succeed. News of the rescue spread across the galaxy faster than light-speed communication. Within hours, every major news network was reporting the impossible story. A human cargo ship had succeeded where the galaxy's most advanced rescue operations had failed. Captain Zek's theory found himself in the unusual position of being famous. Reporters from dozens of species wanted to interview him about the rescue. Government officials wanted to know how it had been accomplished. Military leaders demanded technical details about the human methods. But Zek's theory kept his answers simple and honest. 4 humans in a battered cargo ship had saved 12,000 lives by doing what everyone said was impossible. The Serenity's dream docked at Kepler Station, the nearest major spaceport. As passengers disembarked, word of their rescue continued to spread. Families were reunited. Children who had written final letters to their parents were now running into their arms. The teacher from Telos found Captain Santos in the station's main concourse, surrounded by reporters and officials. She pushed through the crowd with the little girl who had drawn the picture of a rescue ship. Captain Santos, the teacher said, someone wants to meet you. The little girl looked up at Santos with wide eyes. She held up her drawing, a small ship flying through colorful clouds to rescue a bigger ship. I drew this before you came, she said shyly. I knew someone would save us. Santos knelt down to the child's level and studied the picture carefully. This is beautiful. You drew exactly what happened. My teacher said whoever came to save us would have to be very special people, the girl said. Braver and smarter than anyone else. Santos smiled and ruffled the child's hair. Sweetie, we're not special. We just don't know when to quit. But the galaxy disagreed. Analysis of the rescue began immediately. Scientists studied the energy patterns of the Helios Nebula, trying to understand how the humans had read them so accurately. Military strategists examined human ship designs, looking for advantages they had previously overlooked. What they found changed everything. Dr. Velish, a leading expert in xenobiology, published the first major study on human space navigation. Her conclusions were startling. Human spatial intelligence appears to operate on principles fundamentally different from other species, she wrote. While most spacefaring races have evolved sophisticated analytical capabilities, humans have retained what can only be described as intuitive pattern recognition. They perceive complex systems as unified wholes rather than collections of separate variables. The Galactic Rescue Corps conducted their own investigation. Captain Vera interviewed Captain Santos extensively, trying to understand how the humans had navigated the nebula. "You say you felt the gravity patterns," Captain Vera said during one session. "But our instruments detected no consistent patterns." "That's because you were looking for mathematical consistency," Santos replied. "Gravity doesn't follow math in the nebula. It follows rhythms. Natural rhythms, like weather or ocean currents. But how do you detect these rhythms without instruments?" Santos thought for a moment. "How do you know when someone is sad just by looking at their face? How do you know a song is beautiful before you analyze its mathematical structure? Some things can't be measured. They have to be experienced." The interview was broadcast across the galaxy, and it started a revolution in thinking about space navigation. The Chronari military, who had demanded payment for their failed rescue attempt, found themselves facing uncomfortable questions. If humans could succeed where Chronari technology failed, what did that say about their supposed superiority? General Thok was forced to explain to his superiors why he had demanded 20 years of slave labor from people who were eventually rescued by what he had called primitive humans. The collective, meanwhile, began extensive mathematical analysis of the human rescue. Their conclusion was even more disturbing to established thinking. Human success in the Helios Nebula rescue cannot be explained through conventional logical analysis, they announced. Their methods appear to incorporate variables that cannot be quantified. This suggests the existence of valid problem-solving approaches that transcend pure logical calculation. For a species that had built their entire civilization on mathematical precision, this was a profound shock. But perhaps the most significant change came in how other species viewed humanity itself. Before the rescue, humans had been seen as a young, primitive race that had barely figured out space travel. Their technology was considered crude, their methods unsophisticated. Now, suddenly, everyone wanted to understand how humans thought. Universities across the galaxy began offering courses in human intuitive methods. Ships started carrying human navigators as consultants. The price of hiring human pilots and engineers skyrocketed as other species realized that sometimes the primitive approach was actually the most effective. 6 months after the rescue, Captain Santos received a message that surprised her. It was from the Altarian government, offering her command of their newest exploration vessel. "We want to map the unmappable regions of space," the message read. "Places where conventional navigation fails. We believe human methods might succeed where others cannot." Santos read the message while sitting in the captain's chair of the Lucky Strike. Her crew was gathered around her, planning their next salvage run into a dangerous asteroid field that most species avoided. "They're offering me the fanciest ship in their fleet," she told them. "All the latest technology, a full crew, unlimited resources. You going to take it?" Pete asked. Santos looked around at her battered ship, her small crew, and the star charts showing regions marked as too dangerous to explore. "Not a chance," she said. "We've got work to do." Tommy laughed. "What kind of work?" "Someone just sent word that there's a research station lost in the Magellan storms. Hasn't been heard from in 3 weeks. The Science Corps says it's impossible to reach them." Sarah grinned and started checking their supply levels. "Impossible? Must be Tuesday. Besides," Santos added, "I like our ship. She's ugly, she's tough, and she goes places that prettier ships can't handle." As the Lucky Strike prepared to depart for another impossible rescue mission, Word of their new adventures spread across the galaxy. Other human ships began taking on similar missions. Dangerous salvage operations. Impossible rescues. Explorations into regions that had been written off as too hazardous. And somehow, impossibly, they kept succeeding. The galaxy learned that when faced with the choice between sophisticated failure and crude success, humans would always choose success. They learned that sometimes the best solution was the one that couldn't be calculated, couldn't be programmed, and couldn't be explained to a computer. They learned that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their weapons or their ships. It was their refusal to accept that something was impossible just because everyone else said it was. In the end, the rescue of the Serenity's dream became more than just a story about survival. It became a legend about the species that looked at the impossible and said, "Let's give it a try." And across the galaxy, whenever someone faced a problem that couldn't be solved,